Hey, welcome, welcome. It is the 30th of November. We're right on the end here, the end point, and moving forward. And today's topic is rest, the importance of rest, actually. We're going to talk about several different things. Um, and Shelley Ann shared uh, an article that talked about um, the seven areas of rest that we should look at. So we'll get into that a little bit as we go forward too. But as usual, first off, we're going to jump in and just introduce everybody. Cass, you go ahead and tell us who you are, what you do, and where you're from.
Oh, I knew you were going to start with me, and I wasn't feeling prepared yet. But I know who I am. I'm a holistic life mentor, and I'm interested in the bigger picture of what makes you you, the mind, the body, the spirit, how it's all connected. I work with clients when they're feeling stuck. They're looking to overcome self doubt and manifest their dreams. I'm here to give them a new perspective, but I'm not here to tell them what to do. That's your job. You figure that out, and we work together to come to those goals and plans. I work with my clients both virtually and in person in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and you can find me on catastrophe.com.
Awesome. Shelley Ann, jump right in there.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Shelly Ann Edwards Barron, and I'm from the beautiful island of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm actually enjoying some blue skies and, light, cool breezes today. Um, so some sunshine coming in on this side. When I work with my clients, I think that whole joy of life and living, that's what I work with them to instill, that everyday appreciating every moment kind of thing, because I believe gratitude is a keystone habit, and that's the foundation where every other habit is imbued with life and love. And that word we spoke about last week, discipline, I am still in love with that word because it incorporates everything that I deal with, where I show my clients how to say things right by focusing on their language and their self talk, how to say it loud by establishing those tangible, active habits of gratitude. That's where the discipline comes in there, and how to say it always by establishing the habit of gratitude. And from there, which is what I call the gratitude strategy. From there, we build the foundation for other habits that would help them get to where they want to be. So if you happen to be looking at this and you're feeling stuck, you think you've tried everything else and nothing seems to work, then maybe you can try gratitude. So check me out on LinkedIn, give me a shout. You can look at my YouTube channel, Getting It Done with Gratitude, where we talk about how gratitude incorporates in life every day. We go live on a Thursday as well. So we had an episode this morning, so you should check it out. All right. Thank you. That's me.
Awesome. Yeah, Gerald, jump in and tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Hi, my name is Gerald Alexander. I'm in Scotland. I'm a wealth creator and lifestyle coach, which all evolves from your self image. Mentoring is what I do. And if you want to find out more about those subjects, you'll get me on exquisite-lifestyles.co.uk. And that's spelled exquisitely like XQISIT. See you there.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, and I'm a holistic instructor, guide, and mentor. I help those creating or expanding their online presence deal with tech issues and the overwhelm that these things cause. From website to wealth, from social media to inbound marketing, from SEO to email lists, and everything in between. The time to hire your guide is before you get lost in the woods. I am available, approachable, and affordable, so please feel free to contact me anytime through my website at stephenbhenry.com or just search my name, Stephen B. Henry. And I'm here in Kansas, cold, Actually, it's just a little warmer today. It was bitter yesterday, but it's actually 45 today. That's a tad over 7 degrees Celsius for the rest of the world. Um, and we're kind of invigorated and energized today. So let's move forward talking about rest. Anybody want to jump in there?
Well, I guess I
Hello?
could jump
Go
in
ahead,
to say that
Shelley-Ann.
I was just gonna say that I don't think I got enough of one kind of rest, which was sleep this
Uh-huh.
today.
Yeah,
But
tell us what those 7 types of
the
rest are.
seven,
I found the list
okay.
very interesting. Yeah, do you have it
Yeah,
handy?
it was, and going through it, and I understand now why some people say, um, they've slept all night, but they wake tired. And that's why it fascinates me so much because of that whole concept of waking tired. I've had experiences and then I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'm missing one or the other kind of rest. And being an introvert, there are two on there that yes, I do require rest from those. So the first one
Mm.
is physical rest, which is the one that we are most used to. And then we have sensory rest, emotional rest, spiritual rest, mental rest, creative rest, and social rest. And so social rest is the one that, yeah, um, sometimes I need just a rest from all of those things.
Yeah, a break. I found the one that interested me the most was the creative rest, and where some of them were a rest from certain things. Creative rest was a rest by creativity, by exposure to creativity, and I found that really quite interesting. That by going out and looking at nature or looking at art or listening to music, very creative things, getting exposure to them, you could gain rest, kind of gain peace.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I know that intuitively from what I do myself. If I'm down, I can listen to music and relax, and it's quite good. I just hadn't thought of it as a type of rest, but it makes sense.
One of my favorite places to be in the world, they call it Chapel Grove, and it is at a summer camp. And you walk off into this path and the beautiful tall trees around you, and you come to a clearing where they've set up benches, and you're just in this encapsulated section of the forest, and the sky above you is mostly clear, but there's the edges of the trees swaying, and that is just the most restful place that I've ever been while awake.
Mm.
That is awesome. And it makes me wonder, sometimes I I always tell people I'm a recovering workaholic, and sometimes when I look around my surroundings, I wonder, am I really recovering or am I still, on the wagon, so to speak? But there are times, especially when you want to get things done and there's so much to do, we do so get overwhelmed. And quite aside from missing sleep, we miss some of these other opportunities as well to really rest our entire being. And what fascinated me with the concept of the different types of rest is that it really spoke to all the different areas of who we are as human beings. So our physical body is only one aspect of who we are. We have so many other avenues that we express ourselves. And so it makes sense that we need rest in multiple areas and not just physical body. Um, Prior to reading the article and doing a little bit of research on it, I used to think that physical rest was enough to support all the other areas. But I understand now that physical rest is part of it, it's important. But then there are these other areas where you need to take a break. You need to, rest from one activity and take up another one, as in with the creative rest. So it's very interesting, and I'm definitely going to keep reading on it because it fits with gratitude and the practice of gratitude, where you take a few moments in the morning to what we could call it rest in the gratitude, and that works for me. So I'm this so between discipline and this, yeah, that's it for me for the rest of the year with my research.
I've always talked about sleep hygiene. So prior to reading this article from Shelley Ann, I also was not aware of these 7 different types of rest. But I've often talked about creating sleep hygiene and routines around, or habits around, physical sleep. And a lot of these different places have been covered within that sleep hygiene. Things like sensory, not having extra lights in your room, including a digital alarm clock, because that red or blue or green or whatever light that is, that's enough to disrupt your sleep. So having complete what's the word I want to use? Digital device quiet, rest from all of that stuff, being able to journal or be creative and get something out before you go to sleep. These different things that are involved in sleep hygiene actually can be divided up into all these different groupings, and I really like that.
Yeah, I found in the list of them that they provided, physical rest was first, and that made sense because that's what we all think of, and so it is a good, a good area to be foundational to the rest of it. I'm not sure that any one of these is foundational. I suspect they all have their own value and place, and depending on where you are at the moment, you could put any one of them first. In their list, though, the second one was mental rest, and I just shared yesterday or the day before, I shared a little Peanuts comic in my own profile, with Charlie Brown sitting up in bed and basically in a nice quip caption saying like, "Shut off my mind, I need to sleep," kind of thing. And that mental rest that is important. And when I thought about it, and in my own context, I realized that, as you just said, Cass, I was thinking of mental rest when I read the title as turning off the mind. But then, as you just shared, changing the direction or the focus of the mind is also, mental rest. My dad used to say very often, a change is as good as a rest. And how true that was. And here I am looking at an article today, so many years later, 40, 50 years later, and realizing that my dad was spot on back then, and I just didn't sort of realize it. Go ahead.
I was just going to jump in and say that, like, mental rest can be, if something is weighing on you, then actually talking to somebody about that thing, right? That's alleviating the mental stress of whatever you're carrying. So that doesn't have to mean, you're shutting your mind off. You can actually be activating your mind in order to get to that mental rest that you deserve.
Yeah. And it doesn't always have to be changing the focus either, as I said, and I picked up from you before. It can be focusing on the thing that is bothering you. Sometimes it bothers us because we haven't spoken it out, we haven't thought it through, and so we're dealing. What was the phrase you used yesterday, Cass? Dissonance. We're dealing with
collective resonance,
and we're dealing with a juxtaposition of things that we haven't brought into focus yet. We're dealing with them across a spectrum, and we're that's giving us stress and anxiety, even subconsciously. And so by jumping into it and actually focusing it and talking about it or sharing with others on it, we relieve that stress. We get it out where we can look at it, and that's helpful. Yeah,
And
and
that's rest. That's
that's rest, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much there that is so important. Gerald, I know that you talk a lot about the state of the world today, and everything is so chaotic, and that's, you're so perceptive in that you pick out a lot of little things that that really, when you bring them to the fore, it causes us to focus on them and realize, hey, that's right. And getting rest from that is important, and it's hard to find. I think that what you share with your clients, with with the people that you talk to, you pretty much always lead with the idea of a sense of direction. And I hadn't realized before, but a sense of direction amidst the chaos is restful.
It's your northern light. I mean, when you talk about like, it just does away with all that chaos that's going on, like all round about you, like, and if you don't have that sense of direction, that northern light to follow, to light up where you're going, you're just walking in the fog with no sense of direction. And no sense of direction makes anybody feel uncomfortable, and they're not confident. I mean, some of the words, funny enough, Steve, we were just talking about like how words can mean the same thing in different context. But Cass knows usually you come away with some amazing words there, like alleviating, talking about like that. Oh God, like a rest, a big sigh, just to get it off your chest, relief, as you referred to it, Steve. And then also, like, I think Shelly Ann touched on it, then you touched on it, Cass, with nudging our brain first thing in the morning. It's the same as I was just listening to, like, the power of the subconscious mind and how it goes through this phenomenal time first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And that's the time when we should be nudging, not so much nudging, but talking our brain into, like, how we want to feel, where we're going, what we're looking forward to, what we're grateful for, as we're going to that restful state. Because, it's going to be working, our subconscious mind's working 24/7. So it's going to be working on pretty much what we've kind of nudged it into that direction. This is me. This is describing me. This is describing my future. This is describing how I feel. And as you know, it just goes to work to make you right. We're self-fulfilling prophecies, and that's pretty much the best time to do it. Just when I was out my walk today, I actually heard this one, Steve. So it's like first thing in the morning, and the way he described it was just a phenomenal state, and a phenomenal experience. And I think a lot of people forget that we're phenomenal beings, So just to be grateful for that phenomenal period and to nudge it in that direction. First thing in the morning and last thing at night, to go into that restful state, not an escape state, a restful state.
Yeah,
You
if you
see,
think
the
about
veil
that,
is thinnest at those hours, right? And sometimes I think the veil can refer to the separation between conscious and subconscious states. And so when it's thin in the morning and at night, that's when you can communicate best with yourself.
Yeah, the idea that the mind, we this cacophony of things that goes on in the conscious mind that we want to try to shut off, that gets in the way of the subconscious working for us. And in the morning, we're just getting up. We haven't got all of that thought going. It hasn't initiated yet. And if we take that moment, grasp it, and plant seeds in it deliberately, then the subconscious mind can work with those. And at night, when we've wrapped up the day and we're getting ready for bed, we're kind of bringing our mind down, or trying to anyway, And if we plant those seeds in the subconscious mind at that point, once we've fallen asleep, and the subconscious can, kind of look and say, well, you're out of the way now, so I can work. And it's got that whole period of hours that you're sleeping, and it's working away for you. And if we don't plant those seeds, it doesn't have anything to work on. So, or it works on what you were most thinking about at the time.
Yeah, well, what it is like you were talking about there, Cass. It goes into, is it the alpha state or some kind of wavelength when there's not so much, monkey brain going on and all this chatter and all these distractions. It's a more relaxed state, and it's the best time for it to communicate and work with, because up until that time, it's really standing as a bodyguard at the gate, like not letting conscious, being careful about what seeds you let past you to go in to fulfill in the subconscious mind. If it's a negative one, hopefully we're conscious and aware enough to say, no, don't pass that information on, because the subconscious mind will just go to work to make us correct. So no, it's not that that's making the mistake. It's what we're sending it, or telling it to do. And that wee part of like what Steve just talked about there is, when I go for my walk, there's a chapel garden that I walk through, and on one of the trees it says, when I plant my garden, I grow happiness. So it's like, well, what are you planting in your brain? And that's the words. And then just before you go to sleep, I am grateful, like for having a good day, and just know all your blessings, and what was the word they said? Something about like praying is the same as your desires, and it's the same as like how the universe, I'll let you have whatever you want, but you've got to let it know what you want.
Yeah. And you've got to know what you want. That's a lot of people, if you ask them, if you pin them down, what makes you happy, or what do you want, they can't tell you. They kind of, they just don't have that on their mind at the time. And we need to be able to understand ourselves. And so in the concept of rest, all of those various aspects of rest come together in our conscious mind, but then they are processed by the subconscious mind. And we can direct them. We can direct our subconscious mind. It's not something that works on its own. It does work on its own with what we direct it. And oftentimes people say, oh no, that's just a lot of gobbledygook. You can't direct your subconscious mind, or there isn't a subconscious mind, or the law of attraction doesn't work. I know, because I try and it doesn't work. And the fact is, most people are doing it wrong. They're actually directing their subconscious mind to do the wrong things, and then they're surprised when they get the wrong things. One of the examples. Go ahead.
You just brought something to my attention there, like how people don't know. Like we all want to be happy. That's something that every one of us has in common. And basically, a great one that I heard was, our ability to achieve our own happiness is the true measurement of our success. Now, but it's the same idea as what you said there when you say to people, what would make you happy? Straight away, like the most common answer I get is to win the lottery, because then they'll tell you what activities would make them happy, or what they would get to make them happy, or what they would do, because then they had the money. But it just shows you, what you've brought to my attention just now is why people don't know what would make them happy, because they've dismissed being that happy, maybe because they believe in their mind they don't have that money. And I heard that our beliefs are our thoughts.
Yeah, I was going to say, not everybody wants to be happy. Some people actually are happy. I'd like to consider myself one of them. I don't think about being happy on a regular basis. I'm not depressed, and I don't consciously try to be happy. I just am happy. in life. I enjoy the communities that I've built around me, and I enjoy the spiritual connections that I have, and I've curated my home and my activities in a way that enhances my mood and keeps me in a good mood and keeps me happy. So it is possible to do, and it is possible not to just strive for it. And for me, money is absolutely not that thing. Like, if you asked me the one thing, it would be community and people. It wouldn't be money that would make me happy.
That's a lovely, that from a perspective. I remember how we used that word the other day. From the perspective, yes, you've got to be focused on it, and that's why you're a coach. But other people have to believe that that's possible, and then all you're really doing is showing them the how, the techniques, the patterns, and how you've created this in your life. And we all want to share it and help other people be happy, but we're all happy in our own way. And it's not, and I think it's not so much the being happy, it's the actual striving. That's the happiness. It's not reaching the summit. It's the having a sense of direction. It's having that goal and that enthusiasm and moving, as opposed to sitting on the side of the curb with your head down.
Mm-hmm. The journey, not the destination, right?
Yes.
One of my favorite quotes, I can never remember it in Latin, but in English, every man is the artifacts of his own destiny, of his life. You are the architect, the creator, the designer. You write the stories that you believe. And if you believe you're not wealthy because you don't have money, then you've written that story for yourself. I am one of the wealthiest people I know, and I am one of the monetarily poorest people that I know. But I am extremely happy and feel extremely wealthy in my life. So those are stories that you tell yourself. And Steve, you were about to say something bringing us back on topic about rest, but I think I cut you off.
No, I was actually going to share an example that had to do with the subconscious mind or the law of attraction. But bringing us back to rest, which I'll share that example some other time. We've got far off topic, and we do this a lot, but it's because each person sharing opens the door to something else, and we're on a path, a journey, and I love it. I'm invigorated by it, and I hope others are too. To bring us back on topic to the list, sensory rest was next on their list. I'm taking them in that order. And Cass, you mentioned about lighting, for sensory rest and being, turning off certain things and getting away from them. And I think that's important. There's and it's not just visual things, it's audible things, it's tactile things. I mean, we have so many sensory things, smells, and we can control our environment. It's said that smell is one of the most powerful senses that has to do with connecting to your memory. And so, if you want to clear your memory and be able to, pull back things that are there, the sense of smell can be very powerful. When I was teaching high school, I used to tell the kids that if, when they're studying for exams or tests or whatever, one of the problems is that if they study with the music blaring and, a friend on the phone at the same time and talking about other things, the study part isn't working. But if they will create the environment that is the same as is going to be in their test environment or as close to it as possible, not sitting in the living room with the TV blaring and the younger kids jumping on the couch, but go to your room, sit at your desk, put your feet flat on the floor, and look at the book that you're studying, so that what you study, taking in, will be able to come out in a similar environment. It'll make it easier. But then do a couple of things that can work towards that. Put just a dab of perfume, guy or girl, put a dab of perfume on your wrist so that as you're holding your book and reading, you'll be smelling that. Choose a perfume, go borrow your mother's, choose a perfume that is not what you normally wear. And then when you go to your exam the next day or whenever it is, put that perfume on again. And that smell will bring back all of the things you studied. It'll retrieve them in your memory. And so by controlling your sensory perception through resting, choosing different particular things, you can control your environment.
A lot of people often get sleepy around lavender. And lavender is something that you can put like a sachet of lavender under your pillow. You can use it, the what are they called? The little shower fizzes that come in lavender. You can use them in a shower or a bath bomb before bed if that's something that you include in your routine. And then you associate lavender only with your rest. I don't personally like lavender at all, but some people really do, and they really feel that it brings down their agitation, their nerves, and it's a very restful scent. And then it can connect with your environment in the same way that you're talking about the perfume, that when you come into an environment that smells like that, your body just chills,
relaxes,
rests.
Yeah.
Touching on what Cass had mentioned about the sensory sleep, and I watched a video, and it brings it back to mind. It was about a young guy in his 30s and how his bedroom, he owned his own house in the bedroom, but to get a better sleep, it was advised. It was a small bedroom and his double bed barely fitted in it, and he said, like, what is it you call that word, Cass? Like when you do up, things are facing a certain way. Zen.
Feng shui.
Yeah. So that kind of thing. Whereas his dirty knickers used to be lying about the floor, and his dirty clothes, and like an empty plate where he ate his food. But when he removed all them, and then the place became not a bedroom, a place to sleep, he was waking up and he wasn't looking at all the things straight away, getting distracted. I have to put them away or this or whatever. So it's all about the room and how we create that room. We want a peaceful sleep.
Yeah, I use the word curate, but yeah, that's how I design or create comfort in my room. I only sleep in there. I don't go in there and eat ever. I might chat on the phone in there because it's comfortable, but not usually. Usually that is a place for sleep and a place for rest. It's comfortable. I have my clothes in there and a laundry hamper in there. There's nothing that's like hanging all over the place. There's no distractions at all. There's no television in the bedroom. All these things that people do, their body begins to associate the bed with watching TV or being on your laptop or whatever it is, and it's not. It stops becoming a trigger for sleep in a good way. So when I go into my room, if I have my laptop plugged in, that's the best place that I charge it. I don't actually use it in there, but if I'm charging it in there and I have to go get it, and I sit down on the bed, my body's like, oh, is it sleep time? Because we're in the bedroom and you're sitting on the bed. You're getting ready for bed now, right? And I start to feel tired. I have to grab that laptop and get out so I can go do my work. But it's definitely this way that I have created that trigger for myself. You do the sleep hygiene I talk about is doing a routine that's about a half an hour before you get to your physical sleep. A half an hour of the things that you need to do at the end of the day to get yourself towards that. And when I start doing those routine things, my body begins to release the chemicals that you need to be able to fall asleep, right? So it's that trigger of like, oh, we're brushing our teeth. Oh, we're plugging everything in. We're feeding the cats. We're turning out the lights. Whatever that whole routine is, your body will be trained that it's time to slow and rest.
And that sensory perception.
Can I try to jump in here?
Are things you're focusing on. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my internet is being unfriendly this morning. So hopefully, are you guys hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Perfect.
Hmm.
awesome. So you
We didn't know
might
you
not
were
be able
still
to
there.
see me. Yeah, I wasn't for a while, but I'm back. I'm back. So I wanted to touch on what Cass just said, and each of you, Stephen and Gerald, have also touched on it as well. That idea of routine when it comes to rest and tapping into the subconscious and all these things. And this is really what habits are all about. They are us designing the life that we want through little steps and small steps along the way. Because as Cass described, those that sleep routine, what it is, different actions, different steps that tell our brains this is what we're preparing for and this is what we're going to do. And once that is done repeatedly, then you get into the habit, into the routine, into that understanding that this is what's happening. And I feel like when it comes to rest, many of us don't really pay attention to the things that we do, whether it's physical sleep or the other kinds of rest. It's not something that is intentional at all. And for me, when I started doing the reading, I realized I had certain routines that worked well, but others that I didn't even consider that, hey, this is something that I could design differently, considering that it relates to a certain type of rest for me.
That's a good word, design, too. I like that. I'm just going to jump in here and say we have a comment from one of our Facebook watchers. It says, "Very interesting topic. How one's environmental factors will influence the subconscious mind." That's a great point. Absolutely, they do.
Yeah, I've studied the subconscious mind as a hobby, not professionally, but I have studied that since my mid-teens, and it's there's so much knowledge about the subconscious mind that for a long time was kind of separated over in the mystical world, and science or straight up, people did not really apply it, or they just said it was out there, kind of thing. But now, as we've entered the world of quantum physics, and we're starting to discover that so many of the things that were in the mystical world are actually real, and we're able to measure them now and see the various things, the concept of the subconscious mind, and even going into the area of the law of attraction, is being understood better, and we could almost say being certified as real. And for those of us who always knew it was real, that's kind of a nice justification. And for the skeptical world, they're starting to look at it differently. And it's a very subtle thing that that we feed and nurture with the things that are around us, but especially with our conscious thoughts that we kind of let slip by in passing. And I'll share that example now that I was going to share earlier. And it's the idea of, if you could imagine yourself having a house party, and you've got a kitchen with a sliding door that opens out onto a patio or a deck, and the barbecue is out there, and a table is out there with various things on it that you're serving, and people are all gathered around, and you're in the kitchen filling up a pitcher with lemonade, and hard or soft doesn't matter, but lemonade, and you've got half a dozen glasses on the tray as well, and you've filled those up along with the full pitcher, and you're carrying it, and you're walking out, flat kitchen floor, level slider for the doors so that it's nothing to trip over, and right out onto the patio at the same level. And there's no reason for you to fall or trip or anything else. And you're carrying that, and you think consciously to yourself, I hope I don't trip, or I better not trip, or wouldn't it be terrible if I tripped? though, people have, I think everybody here, everybody listening has done that at some time or other. And what happens? Your ankle slides, you step on your shoelace, you trip, and the drinks go flying. Or you trip and recover, and they almost go flying, and you say, where did that come from? Well, it came from you. You told the subconscious mind to trip. You said, I hope I don't trip. What if I did trip? I better not trip, but it doesn't matter. The action word is trip. And the subconscious mind only works on action words, not on yeses or nos or rights or wrongs or do's or don'ts. Only the action word. That's a part that the subconscious mind focuses on. So if you say don't trip or you say trip, you're telling the conscious mind, make me trip. And so when we deal with our environment, what we focus on informs our subconscious mind. Law of attraction doesn't work for me. I've tried it. It doesn't work. You're focusing on the wrong things. You're saying the wrong things, or along with saying the right things, you also say enough of the wrong things that it cancels out and doesn't work. Affirmations are a good example of that. And so many people not only choose to use the wrong affirmations, so many coaches and gurus share the wrong affirmations because they've never actually studied it. And so, you've got to use the right way to do it. There are right and wrong ways. And, the idea you can say, well, whatever works for me. No, whatever works is what you want. And it'll work because it's right. Anyway, that's a bit of detour, but it still refers to rest.
I think it's a little bit of a combination with what I mentioned earlier, like about our thoughts, our beliefs are our thoughts, and then again, how are we directing our thoughts? And that example that you just gave there, Steve, was how we're self-fulfilling prophecies, and our subconscious mind does what it's told to make us right. So we'll have our expectations, but that example there was a bit flipped because it all depends on how your subconscious mind interpreted. That I don't want to slip, or what if I slipped? Then it's like, okay, it's how it's interpreting the message, and then that's what it's the conscious mind is there for, being the gatesman. Whoa, don't let that word "can't" in there, because he'll make it that you can. So it's the words once again that nurture and feed the garden. That's the best way to look at our brain. Like these seeds, which are the words that we are planting in to bloom into a story and our life. It's the idea that we really do have that much power in believing in ourselves that much, that we have that much power to live this dream. That it says also, like, our subconscious mind is really our imagination, whatever we imagine it to be.
Yeah, I wanted to pull us back to rest as well, and bring in some of the other categories types of rest that we haven't touched on yet. Social, I think, was one of them, and the idea that there's some people that drain us, or the idea that there's some people that rejuvenate us. And so being aware of those interactions with the people around you. It's not just about as Shelley-Ann alluded to, about needing that alone time to decompress from being social, that introvert, wanting that downtime completely. That's not the only way that social can be restful. Social can also be restful, and in the way that it's rejuvenating you. I know that for myself, I love to play board games, and I know that it isn't about whether I win or not. It's just about getting to play. In fact, I'm always the one who offers to clean up the game, because I just enjoy interacting with people and the whatever the game may be. And so then I feel rejuvenated. I don't feel exhausted after people have left. I'm like, oh, now I'm energized and I can do other things, because that was a type of rest that is not the sleep and the low and the slow kind of rest. That was a rejuvenation for me, a social way to get my energy back.
That's like
I think that we find that there's both the positive and the negative side of these things, and I don't mean that in a negative as bad, but there is the action and the inaction, and we often think of rest being the inaction, and what you've just described is a very true action that you find restful. I know that there are certain people that when I go to meet them, they're people that you pick up where you left off, whether it's 2 days ago or 2 years ago or 2 decades ago. You could pick up where you left off. I can think of a couple of people right now that I haven't seen for decades, literally, and yet I know that we could just pick up where we left off and have a conversation and just be into it, and I would find it both invigorating and restful. And so and that's a positive interchange, an active interchange. And it is often overlooked that those things can actually be restful. And so when we're talking about social rest, sometimes we just need to get away again from the cacophony of voices and ideas and people in general. Got to get away from it. And sometimes we've got to immerse ourselves in it to be rested. Yeah, I love that.
That was now's a great example for people who listen in on a regular basis, how we jump from subject to subject, or we pull a subject in that we've already discussed, or we bring one in that we'll talk about in the future, because look at how hard it's been for us to stay. There was 7 different steps here that we can cover, all in the one word of rest, or the meaning of rest to us, and yet it's hard to stay upon that word. So imagine what it's like on a daily basis, making so many quick decisions and choices in a daily basis. It's a good example right now, because we're talking about, we know the power of focus, yet it's hard for us to stay focused on the one subject of rest. And yet we've got 7 different subtotals to cover within this period. But in order for to understand it properly, we've got to bring in other things like good or bad, not saying that there's good or bad, and intentional, on purpose, so
All things are interconnected and interdependent.
Yeah.
Moving. I think it's all
moving to
the self-care. People.
Go ahead, Gerald.
No, I just wanted to. I'm just looking at my wee notes. It's all about self-care. How we. It's how you can't really bring it down to one word, but it's all about knowing yourself and self-discovery and exploration. And then one of the words that came to mind that I've recently came across, Cass, was about compartmentalizing. Like when you're saying when you're playing board games, the example I heard was when somebody's at work and they're feeling guilty that they're not home with their wife and their kids because they're spending too much time at work. Their mind's at home, so they're not at their work. They're not working to their capacity. But or when they're at home with their kids and they're thinking, I should be at work, So it's all about being able to say, I'm here to play board games, or I'm on the golf course. I don't want to be talking about business. I want to be improving my golf swing, or I want to get better at this game, putting things, nudging with intention. I'm here with this intention. It's the same as like how when people come to this program, what are they looking to get out of it?
Yeah, it involves we have to draw them all in from different places. And the understanding of focus is not necessarily the immediate thought about it, because different things affect different people in different ways. So your focus may be different than my focus, and that doesn't make either one of them any less focused.
Well, one of your words that you like, Steve, is synchronicity. Whereas whatever we're focusing on, though, it seems as though once somebody will mention something or an opportunity will come up that's in sync with what you are focusing on, So once again, it'd be easy to pull that word in to discuss focus. And what we're really focusing on is rest today. So, so you can see how it's, whoa. So we really need a North Star. That's why I'm always going on about a sense of direction. We really need to get, whoa, I'm getting pulled off track here. Where's my North Star? What was I doing today? What was I going? And being able to brush that off and get up and move on and know where we're moving on to. What was I doing?
And weave some rest into that plan, into that roadmap that you've made from your North Star, right? Recognizing that rest is essential, and not just physical sleep, but actual mental, emotional, spiritual, sensory, social, creative. All of those matter to your rest.
Mm-hmm. What once again is coming to my mind just now is rest is not necessarily sleep.
Yeah, it doesn't have to involve sleep at all. Cass, you just mentioned spiritual rest, and that's the 7th one on the list. And there's different ways of interpreting that. Some people may think of it as religion, and that's generally not what it's referring to. It's referring to the person, the inner spirit, and that we need to give ourselves kind of an overall kind of rest. In essence, all of the other types apply to spiritual rest, but we can also focus on our inner spirit, our inner being, and find ways of delivering rest to that. And rest might be respite from activities. It might be turning to activities, board games, for example. And these things that seem, if anything, far from spiritual, can actually inform our spiritual rest. And I think that probably, it's last on the list, and I think it probably underpins all of the other things, because ultimately that's our goal. Even physical rest, sleep for the body to regenerate, the body is the carrier of our spirit. And so, spiritual rest comes when the body is rested and able to bear the spirit. I'm fascinated. The topic of rest came up fairly quickly as a filler. We were going to cover something else, and last minute the topic came up this morning, actually. And I am fascinated by the numerous aspects of rest that I'm aware of all of them, but I hadn't considered them before. It just opens your mind to some very interesting things. And that's the joy of this setup, this conversation. We bring things to each other that we can explore, and for those who are watching either live or in the replay, you get to share with that, and hopefully it will open your mind to some different kinds of thinking. We are so powerful as individual beings, and when we bring that individuality together into a group, we become even more powerful. And when you look at the interchange that goes on in these presentations, these conversations, you see that we play off of each other. There's nothing scripted here. There's nothing pre-planned. We all bring to this different aspects of what can be done. What we do is only a part of what can be done. And just as we each get ideas from what we share with each other, you out there in the world watching this, I truly hope that you are able to get ideas from what we share that may indeed be different to or extensions of what we're talking about. It is, you don't have to take what we say at face value and then live with it. Let what we say get your thought processes going so that you can bring other things into it. And by all means, leave your comments wherever you're watching this. Leave your comments. Look us up on Facebook. We're all on Facebook. Look up our websites. We share that with you. We often post them in the comments where you're watching this, and you'll be able to interact with us, give us feedback, tell us you like what we do, tell us you hate what we do, and anything in between. We love that.
I'm just noticing that Shelley-Ann came off mic there for a minute. I wondered if there was something that you wanted to say to maybe tie this all together in our last 2 minutes.
Yeah, I was looking at the time, so I was wondering about getting into it. But when Stephen spoke about the spiritual rest and it not being religion, but the individual spirit, what came to me was energy and the way we give our energy to other people and to situations and to life, and that needs to be rejuvenated and replenished, just like our physical bodies need to be replenished, our mental capacity and all these things. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you've heard the saying, it's been said quite a number of times, you can't give from an empty cup. And so filling that cup is where the rest comes in and really helps us to be able to continue giving the way we would like to be.
That's really
Yes.
great. I practice Reiki, and Reiki says energy is in all things, in all places, at all times. So finding those ways to fill your cup is definitely something that's important and possible.
Any last words there, Gerald?
No. I had a couple, but then it's just so many distractions, isn't it? It's like, oh, there's something else, or there's something else. Well, I think like what you were saying earlier on, you said maybe what you wanted, or I forget the word we were using at the time. What was success to you or happiness to you would be different for me and as it is to each other, or to everybody. And anybody that's watching this, I mean, as you were pointing out there, Steve, it's not we're telling you what to do or how to do it. It's basically, like guides, like a toolbox, tools, patterns, like Shelley-Ann had said, like the patterns, the habits, like how techniques that we can put into play to get our mind more to stay in between the lines and not get pulled off track so often, and not so much to stay in between the lines, Cass. I know, but I mean, no, make it easier, because we can only do one thing at a time, really. That's about it.
Awesome. Well, on that note, then, we're at the top of the hour. This has been an amazing hour that has just flown by so quickly. There's so much more we could get into. We'll probably deal with this topic again in the future. Probably, go ahead, Cass.
I'm going to jump in here and suggest a topic for next week. And I was thinking maybe building community.
I'm good with that. I like that.
Community or building community?
Building community, yeah.
Community itself is such a huge topic. Building community is a little better focus, I think. I'm good with that, building community. Everybody else? And who knows, we might end up changing it last minute. But for now, we'll go with it. Gerald?
I already feel myself getting distracted from that word and thinking recently how the word networking became so powerful to me. Is that not similar to building community?
Certainly part of it, and we can discuss that next week. I think that's great. Yeah, glad
We've
you
not
brought that
even
up.
started it, and I'm on to something else pulling it in before we
Yeah.
even try to stay focused.
Well, I'm writing down networking here as well to bring it up if you forget to do it. It's wonderful. Okay, so let's wrap that up, and Shelly Ann, if you're good, play us out.
Bye.
Maybe she's not able to. Was that Shelly Ann that played that, or Cass? Were you able to? What was? Okay. Mike?
You're muted. You're muted.
I said that was me, but I don't have permissions to end the stream anymore. So Shelly Ann, if you're glitching, we may be stuck here forever.
All right, let me try then. All right, let's take it away one more time.